Tony Vitello is right in the middle of it as Tennessee's national championship defending coach. Kind enough to join us on the Chuck and Bo Show. Coach, thanks so much for making time for us. Good morning.
Good morning to you guys. No sweat. Matt Zimmerman is a guy who I would do anything for.
He's been the go-between.
Yeah, it may be awkward to have, I guess, the enemy on or the enemy hooking up here, but I would do anything for that guy. And he brought it up. And I don't want to steal your guys' format, but I will tell you this. I've thought ahead, and there's probably some people in the state of Arkansas that hate the fact I'm even on the airwaves there. So I got something to keep those people happy real quick, a short story after the game. I went to the team meal in the lobby. I was sick to my stomach. I thought I could have done better over the weekend. I was distraught we lost and all that, so I couldn't eat. So I went to the room, just stared at the TV, wasn't even on. Eventually, the starvation hit me. So I went to an old go-to U.S. Pizza, and I used DoorDash. Well, when it got delivered to the door and I picked it up, it had a big WPS exclamation point on it. So, and my name's on DoorDash. I'm faced, and you guys can choose your own end of the story. Do I eat this food or not was the big question. I opened it. I smelled it. I looked at it. I had a big old salad I didn't even touch. I ate half the pizza and figured, if I get food poisoning or whatever, so be it. There was a few more details. I messaged the DoorDash guy, and it was him, and we actually had a friendly go back and forth. But, that's how the trip ended. So, for any Tennessee haters, they get a kick out of that probably.
That's like reminiscent of the Michael Jordan, what we thought was a flu game, and found out on the last dance that it wasn't a flu game. It was the Utah pizza delivery.
Yeah, when the competition heats up, it's not just the players and the coaches that are involved. It's everybody. And that was the case this weekend. I think if anything, our guys need to be on a mission next year to play in our home environment, which is also, it's a different kind of rowdy. But, like Oxford, like Baton Rouge, like Fayetteville is incredibly advantageous to play at home.
Tony, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say yesterday we had Clay Goodwin on for a little while yesterday, and that word respect just kept coming up over and over and over again. The respect that these two staffs have for one another. Fans yell and scream, and that's part of what makes it fun. But the respect on the staffs, I just wondered if you'd talk about that for a second.
Yeah, I think it's hard to put into words, in a short amount of time because there's so many members. Coach Elander was at Arkansas, was for a short while, but people probably don't realize how big of an impact he had on the offense there with guys like Chad Spanberger. I'm still learning. I need to get better, but I think the one thing people know is I've always tried to work hard. And then Coach Van Horn is the best coach in college baseball. It's not really opinion. If you dig into it, it's fact. And while I play with Matt Hobbs and have a ton of admiration for him, and his career is only going to get better with all the things he racks up, I think he would agree Frank, to date, has the best resume as any pitching coach in the country. So there's some talent there. There's a lot of work ethic, but I think at the end of the day, you also just got a lot of good people that really enjoy each other when it's away from the battlefield. And then the best way you show appreciation, in my opinion, as a player is to play hard and not lack passion. And sometimes here that goes over the line, and guys like Fish, can get scrutinized a little bit. But I think, in order to go against your brother or whoever it is in competition, the best respect you can show them is to try and beat them and try and make it as competitive as possible.
What was it like for you? And I hear you being self-critical, and then I see you, doing things where people criticize you for it. And, we played along. Tony Vitello, the villain, coming to Fayetteville with Tennessee against the superheroes, the Razorbacks. I mean, this was theater this past weekend, and I just kind of wonder what that was like for you, because I do know how much you appreciated your time at Arkansas and all the things you just mentioned.
Yeah, it was frustrating. It was theater, and all the way down to ESPN making it a big deal. The people deserved a third game, a rubber match, and I truly thought with our first two starters that would come. I think Liam doing what he did for us on the Monday game affected, our rotation, and more importantly, how he could go out there for us. Probably should have left him out there longer. But the bottom line is, it was an epic matchup, and it was one where we were the true underdog. Home field advantage matters, but also that series we played, y'all, in the regular season. I'm a baseball guy, so I believe in, not saying too many things out loud that you'd regret or you'd jinx something, but that was a pretty special group. I recognized across the field, and we thought they could do special things.
Let me ask you, Tony, about the teams that are left, specifically Arkansas and LSU. You've had a ringside seat for both. I mean, what do you think about that matchup?
I think the difference is the lineup, and I think the depth of arms maybe doesn't come into play with game one, but you guys know it's like a regional all over again. And, for us, we maybe didn't have as much depth on the mound as we wanted or as much as Arkansas has. So we had to go back to Liam on that Monday game, for instance, and had to recycle a couple other guys. I think the lineup is a little more threatening 1 through 9 for Arkansas, and there's a greater depth in arms. But this time of year, it is chaos. And you guys know this with basketball. You guys have had some good runs, but also fallen short. Crazy things have happened. I think the new March Madness in the NIL era, because if you look at the NCAA basketball tournament, it was 4 number 1 seeds that were at the end. NIL, only 1 or 2 players can really affect something. In baseball, there's so many different moving parts. And if a guy like Root gets into that mode that he's in, it's tough to derail that storyline that he's going to be the winner. So anybody can do that as a pitcher, especially game one going into that deal. We played Florida State last year, and they had that Jamie Arnold kid who might go first in the draft this year, and we just got to him. I don't know how, but we got to him, and that affected our path to being able to do some things there. But I like Arkansas in the matchup. I like the fact that instead of going to Baton Rouge and having all their fans, it'll probably be it will be the 2 biggest fan bases there will be Arkansas and LSU. But it's playoff time and it's chaos. And I think the one thing I would say about my former boss and Coach Van Horn, you can't judge a coach like Rick Barnes based off how a tournament goes because, again, crazy things can happen, and you need breaks this time of year to get what you want. But if you look at a whole body of work, he's the winningest coach out there by percentage. And I think I'll go out on a limb, and I don't know if it's okay to share with you guys. From my perspective, from being there, I think his loyalty to the university has been taken advantage of a little bit, and I hope they make it obvious that that's where he's going to end his career, and I hope they reward him for what he's done because you don't judge these things on trophies and SEC championships. It's how you go about your business, and also our game is a game of percentages. You judge it over a whole body of work, and I don't think anybody can be his.
Sometimes it takes hearing something like that from somebody who's not spoiled and seeing it every day. And for someone who watched it, worked under it, was a part of it, then went on to take that and whatever else you learned throughout your career, then go win the national championship at Tennessee. I'm interested to hear more of your perspective. What is it about DVH? And I know it's a big conversation, but maybe you could sum it up that maybe sometimes we forget or don't realize about what's happened here.
Yeah, no, it is a long conversation, but it's also frustratingly short because people wanted to know what's the secret sauce or how was it there, or why don't you just do what they're doing there here at Tennessee? And it's the genius is in the simplicity, and then also he just has tremendous instincts and has a little bit of a gift. And I saw that as a player at Missouri. My butt was riding the bench. I wanted to be on the field, but I also wanted to be a coach. So I studied and watched him and Augie a lot. And he had Rob Childress was a phenomenal pitching coach, just like Jorney was when I was there at Arkansas. Another guy I miss a ton. But it's tough to put your thumb on exactly what makes him good. But he's incredibly competitive. He keeps it simple, never sweats the small stuff, is always very confident. And the players can sense that. And I've been guilty at times as a young coach, not being confident or rushing things, or I don't want to say panicking, but the players can sense what you got going on. And as a Razorback, you have no option other than to keep things simple, compete your butt off, play hard, and also expect to win. And so what you get is a winning product year in and year out. And, yeah, SEC fans, there's too much negativity. But also, you know what, the fans there, they should boo and they should not like me and all that stuff. But other than outliers, you hear the loud voice of, hey, you're an idiot or this, that, and the other. But on the whole, the people were awesome to me. They give you crap, but then also say, hey, we liked when you were here, whatever. And it's the same thing with critics. Like at University of Mississippi, the loud voices criticized Coach Bianco just because their year ends shorter than they wanted to. And everybody in the SEC always wants more. But the regular average or majority of fans know Coach Bianco, he created that thing out of dust. And he also won a national championship. So as great as he's done there, I don't mind saying Coach Van Horn has done better for Razorback Nation. And again, I think people get spoiled and don't realize how good they have it. And sometimes you look for what you don't have instead of enjoying what you do have. And you got a spoiled fan base there, and they should recognize that.
Yeah, I got to ask you too before you get out of here. Tennessee wasn't dust, but it was pretty close when you got there. They had some history, but it was not recent history. How'd you do it so fast?
Hired good people, and then the one thing I truly learned from Coach Van Horn and enjoyed working there for him was he let his people work. So if you're going to do that, you better be meticulous and make sure you hire the right person so then you can implement what DVH does and stay out of their way when it's their category. And he's active in everything, but again, he lets his people do their thing and gives them breathing room. So not only can you do your job as well as you can, but you also enjoy the work environment. So I think hiring the right people was huge. I try and stay out of their way, and it is a bunch of people that, again, I in particular need to get better, but there's a lot of work dumped into it. And then also, as you mentioned, Coach Delmonico, there were years that were really good here. Mm-hmm. The ingredients are here to have success. So it's not like we're the greatest underdog story of all time. It's in the best conference. Knoxville's a phenomenal city. Our fan bases, it's different than the other ones. I don't know how you compare or say one's better than the other, but the ingredients are here. So we're just trying to capitalize on all those things.
Tony, you've experienced something hardly anybody has, and that's win a national championship. And what comes with that is the gauntlet of the regional, the super regional, and then do it all over again in Omaha. What's ahead to try to navigate this, having just gone through it?
Yeah, your path matters, and playing at home was huge, and we're guilty of not making it harder on you all, but, you guys have not had to sweat that much yet, as much as some teams have, and that matters because it's a very stressful and long process, especially if you can continue on. And then when you get there, there's so many things to navigate, extra media, tickets, paying attention to social media's opinion. Somehow our guys did a phenomenal job on their own, leadership of older guys, of just limiting distractions and staying focused on what they were trying to do. And then you got to ride the wave of emotion. And I think we had an overly emotional team at times this year, whereas the year before we were much more even-keeled. We were down 4 runs to Florida State, and our guys were acting like it was a tie game. And I think that's one of the things that led to that comeback in our first game was not panicking or not stressing or not getting over-emotional. Because, again, if you're there till the last game, it's a really long stay. So you have to kind of manage all the different things so that when you're on the field, you can play your best. And that's who's going to win, whoever plays best on that day. It might not be the best team. It's just going to be the team that continually plays the best on each day.
You kind of alluded to this, and as we get out of here, I'm going to read this text to you, as people can call or text the show, and we've gotten apology text coming in for Tony Vitello. Could you kindly
not me?
Yeah, here you go. Could you kindly pass a message along to Tony for me? In the off chance he heard me screaming obscenities through the TV, I am so sorry. I'm assured it was the alcohol that enticed me to do it, and for that, I'm embarrassed. Thank you, BE at Clarksville.
I appreciate that greatly, but you know what? I've cut back on sipping on some adult beverages. But when you have a few, to me, you get permission to kind of make some errors. You get a mulligan, if you will. But also, our fan bases are what makes this league so great, and it should be rowdy, you know. And at the end of the day, I think the smart thing, and one thing that can help the Razorback baseball team, is the fans are great, but they're not in the inner circle. And the inner circle is the only opinion, Coach Van Horn from the top down, that's the only opinion that should matter truly. And like I said in the presser, all those, hate words or whatever, because you're supporting your team. And at the end of the day, the scoreboard is what puts you in a good mood or not. So here's to Arkansas being in a good mood the rest of the way. And here's to us looking at that last scoreboard we saw and using it as motivation in the off season.
Well said. Tony Vitello, Tennessee
Thank
head
you,
coach.
That's
Can't
terrific.
thank you enough. That was awesome. We appreciate it.
No, always a fan of you two guys when I was there, and of course a fan of a lot of things when I was there. I love U.S. pizza, especially when it's not tampered with, and a lot of other good places there. So
that's
I
fantastic.
appreciate you guys.
Hey, thank you, man.
Thank you, Tony.
Best wishes to you. Thanks, Tony.